and skull for beings. Beings, hearing and seeing these things in one accord, have called him the great loving-kindness one and the great compassionate one. Sibajataka. As King Chepai. He wanted to save a pigeon by replacing his own flesh as an equivalent, and as the piece of his flesh did not reach the weight of the pigeon, he climbed onto the balance and ransomed the pigeon at the cost of his body. Then the earth shook in 6 ways, the water of the sea rose in waves, and the devas offered the king perfumed flowers. Beings cried out, "He is truly a great loving-kindness one and great compassionate one to be so concerned for a little bird at this point." The Buddha receives the epithet of great loving-kindness and great compassion from beings. There are many Jatakas of the same type that could be told fully here. 4. Epithet great refused for the wisdom of the Buddhas. Question. There are yet other qualities in the Buddha, such as concentration, etc. And people do not know them, do not describe them as great. But the Buddha's wisdom, his preaching of the dharma, etc. make beings find the path. Why are they not called great? Answer. Nobody fully knows the power of the Buddha's wisdom, but in his great loving-kindness and great compassion, the Buddha, from lifetime to lifetime, sacrifices his life and abandons the bliss of the concentrations in order to save beings, and this everyone knows. The Buddha's wisdom is cognizable by induction, it cannot be cognized directly. But his loving-kindness and compassion are visible to the eye and audible to the ear. They are cognizable, for the Buddha has uttered his lion's roar several times. Furthermore, the Buddha's wisdom is subtle and wonderful, and if the Bodhisattvas and Sariputra do not know it, what can be said of other people? Loving-kindness and compassion are visible and audible, and people can believe them and accept them. The wisdom of the Buddha is so subtle that it cannot be probed. Furthermore, great loving-kindness and great compassion are loved by everyone. They are like a delicious medicine that people like to swallow. Wisdom is like an unpleasant medicine that many do not like at all. But because they like loving-kindness and compassion so much, they have described them as great. Furthermore, there are hardly any beings already enlightened who are able to believe and accept the Buddha's wisdom. In contrast, great loving-kindness and great compassion are of such a different kind that everybody can believe them and accept them, as they have seen a picture of them or heard the voice. They can believe and accept them, and, since they have derived much benefit from them, they call them great loving-kindness and great compassion. Furthermore, great wisdom has as its nature the relinquishment, the rejection of dharmas. Great loving-kindness and great compassion have as their nature pity for and service to beings. This pity and service are loved by all beings. That is why they call them great loving-kindness and great compassion of the Buddha. In the Tche Sen King it is said that great loving-kindness and great compassion have 32 ways of acting on beings. On the extent, nature and object of this great loving-kindness and great compassion, see above what has been said in regard to the 4 immeasurables. 5. Loving-kindness and compassion are pure among the Buddhas. Moreover, the great loving-kindness, great compassion, and the other qualities of the Buddha should not be multiplied. The system of Katyayana tries to distinguish the natures, and great scholars, basing themselves on Katyayana's system, comment on these distinctions. All of that should not be accepted. Why? Katyayana says that great loving-kindness, great compassion, omniscience are impure dharmas, bonds, worldly dharmas. But that is not correct. Why? Great loving-kindness and great compassion are the root of all the Buddha's attributes. How can it be said that they are impure dharmas, bonds, worldly dharmas? Question. Although great loving-kindness and great compassion are the root of the Buddha's attributes, they are impure. Although the lotus grows in the mud, we cannot, however, describe the mud as marvelous. It is the same for great loving-kindness and great compassion. Even though they are the root of the attributes of the Buddha, they cannot be pure. Answer. As long as the Bodhisattva has not become Buddha, His great loving-kindness and great compassion can be called impure and still show faults. But as soon as he has attained, as Buddha, the knowledge of unhindered deliverance, all his attributes are pure. All the disturbing emotions and their traces have disappeared. The sravakas and pratyekabuddhas do not possess the knowledge of unobstructed deliverance and do not eliminate the traces of the disturbing emotions. Often even their doubts on this subject have not been destroyed, and this is why their mind is impure. The Buddhas themselves have none of that. So why then do you say that their great loving kindness and great compassion are impure? Question. I do not wish to be lacking in respect, but, since the minds of loving kindness and compassion in the Buddha concern beings, they are necessarily impure. Answer. The power of the Buddhas is inconceivable. The sravakas and pratyekabuddhas feel loving kindness and compassion without being able to eliminate the notion of being. Whereas the Buddhas feel loving kindness and compassion beyond any notion of being. Why is that? In the arhats and pratyekabuddhas, the nature of beings of the 10 directions does not exist, and yet, when they feel loving kindness and compassion, they grasp the nature of being. The Buddhas would have to look hard for a single being in the 10 directions and they would not find him, and when they feel loving kindness and compassion they do not grasp the nature of being. This is what is said in the Wuxinyi King. There are 3 kinds of loving kindness and compassion. 1. Those that have beings as object. 2. Those that have things as object. 3. Those that have no object. Finally, Buddha is the only one among all beings to cultivate the non-deceptive dharma exclusively. If the Buddha practiced loving kindness and compassion among beings by way of grasping the nature of being, we could not say that he practices the non-deceptive dharma. Why? Because beings are absolutely non-existent. It does not say that sravakas and pratyekabuddhas cultivate exclusively the non-deceptive dharma, and this is also so in regard to beings and things. Insofar as they sometimes grasp characteristics and sometimes they do not grasp them. It is impossible to make the objection to us that the Buddha does not cultivate the non-deceptive dharma. His omniscience destroys all the impurities. It can come from impure dharmas and itself play the part of a pure cause. How could such an attribute be impure? Question. The pure knowledges each have their object. There is not one that can completely bear upon all dharmas. Only conventional knowledge bears upon all dharmas. This is why we say that omniscience is impure. Answer. That is what is said in your system, but it is not said in the system of the Buddha. If a man carrying his own bushel measure went to the market and this bushel measure did not correspond to the official bushel measure, there would be nobody who would use it. It is the same for you. You are using a system that does not correspond to the system of the Buddha, and so nobody wants to apply it. Why would not pure wisdom bear upon all dharmas? This impure knowledge, this conventional knowledge which, according to you, bears upon all dharmas is conventional, deceptive, and weak. Consequently it cannot bear upon all dharmas correctly and exactly. It is you who claim, in your system, that it bears upon all dharmas. Furthermore, the system of the sravakas includes 10 knowledges, but in the Mahayana there is an 11th called knowledge conforming to reality. The 10 traditional knowledges end up in this knowledge conforming to reality in order that they form only a single knowledge, 1. Pure knowledge. In the same way, the rivers of the 10 directions empty into the great sea where they all take on one and the same taste, that of salt. Great loving kindness and great compassion are included in the Samadhi Samadhi and the Simhavakritita Samadhi of the Buddhas. This briefly explains the meaning of great loving kindness and great compassion. End chapter 42.